He was just clearing some brush and sawing logs when he accidentally nicked a wasp's nest. Covered in stings, he came bursting out of the woods, frantically waving his live chainsaw around. As bad luck would have it, a group of college kids vacationing nearby spotted him and instantly pegged him as a legendary, chainsaw-wielding maniac. The crew scattered in pure panic, but one of the boys inadvertently bolted down the exact same path. So, there they were, one sprinting for his life from a perceived killer, the other running like hell from a swarm of angry wasps. Before long, the man overtook the kid. It was only when they were face to face that the boy realized he wasn't actually being hunted. But before he could even process it, disaster struck. In his blind panic, the kid didn't look where he was going and ran straight into a jagged tree branch, impaling himself on the spot. He died without ever knowing that the maniac was just trying to lose some wasps. Later, Hank made it back home, his face swollen with massive stings, and started venting to his buddy, Dale, about the bizarre thing that had just happened. Meanwhile, the remaining students stumbled upon their friend's gruesome death scene. Staring at his mangled body, they immediately convinced themselves this was a sick warning from the killer. Hell-bent on avenging their friend, they rallied together and vowed to take him down. Over on the other side, Hank decided to chop up the dangerous branches and run them through the wood chipper so nobody else would get hurt. Little did he know, one of the college kids had just tracked him down for revenge. Blinded by rage, the kid charged at Hank without a second thought, only to trip and fall headfirst into the hopper. Hank fought with everything he had to pull him out of the machine, but just then, the other students arrived as backup. From their angle, it looked like Hank was brutally stuffing their friend into the chipper, causing them to freeze in absolute terror. By the time Hank finally managed to yank him free, the poor kid was already cut in half. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the chaos, a girl named Ally was helping Dale dig a hole for a makeshift outhouse. The other students caught sight of this and completely misread the situation, assuming she was being held at knife point and forced to dig her own grave. Infuriated, a kid in a green shirt grabbed a weapon and charged. But bad luck tripped him up. He slipped and accidentally skewered his own chest right through a sharp wooden stake. Dale was left paralyzed with fear. In the aftermath, he carried Ally, whom he had accidentally knocked out during the commotion, inside the cabin. Just then, Hank burst through the door, shaken to his core. He frantically told Dale that a suicidal college kid had just snuck up behind his back and literally dove headfirst into the wood chipper. Dale completely related, replying that he had just encountered a total psycho himself the second the outhouse hole was dug. The kid couldn't wait to impale himself right over it. Witnessing this string of freak accidents, Hank came to the definitive conclusion that these kids were part of some twisted suicide cult. He immediately decided to hide every sharp tool and weapon in the house. But Dale pointed out that these kids were ruthless, noting they wouldn't even spare their own people. Hank fell into deep thought, realizing the kids had completely lost their minds and that they both might be next on the hit list. Dale wanted to call the cops, but Hank shut that down immediately. Look outside, there were bodies everywhere, and they were both practically drenched in blood. If the police rolled up right now, they wouldn't stand a chance of proving their innocence. What they didn't know was that the students had already called 911. Left with no good options, the two buddies decided their best bet was to bury the bodies before things got worse, only to cross paths with a cruising police car. As the officer got out to investigate, Hank desperately tried to explain, claiming they were just renovating their old cabin when a bunch of college kids showed up out of nowhere and started offing themselves. He pointed out how one forcefully shoved himself into the wood chipper, and another rammed a stake straight down his own throat, nearly scaring them to death. Unsurprisingly, the sheriff didn't buy a single word of this crazy story, thinking these two hillbillies were playing him for a fool. He immediately reached for his holster and ordered the brothers inside for questioning. Once indoors, the sheriff casually leaned against a support beam. In a split second, the rotten beam snapped, and a loose nail pierced right through his skull. Bleeding out, the sheriff managed to drag himself back to his cruiser to radio for backup, but passed out and died before he could say a word. The students hiding in the back seat completely lost their minds with fear. It never crossed their minds that these two butchers would be brazen enough to execute a cop. Inside, Dale immediately started blaming Hank, snapping that if he hadn't put off fixing that damn beam, the sheriff wouldn't have died such a freak death. As the two argued back and forth, one of the braver students seized the moment, bolted out of the car, scooped up the sheriff's dropped gun, and aimed it right at the brothers, ready to finish them off once and for all.